Steel represents about 3% of man's greenhouse gas emissions, and concrete is over 5%. So if you think about that, 8% of our contribution to greenhouse gases today comes from those two materials alone. We don't think about it a lot, and unfortunately, we actually don't even think about buildings, I think, as much as we should. This is a US statistic about the impact of greenhouse gases. Almost half of our greenhouse gases are related to the building industry. As an architect, wood is the only material, big material, that I can build with that's already grown by the power of the sun. When a tree grows in the forest and gives off oxygen and soaks up carbon dioxide, and it dies and it falls to the forest floor, it gives that carbon dioxide back to the atmosphere and into the ground. If it burns in a forest fire, it's going to give that carbon back to the atmosphere as well. But if you take that wood and you put it into a building or into a piece of furniture or into that wooden toy, it actually has an amazing capacity to store the carbon and provide us with a sequestration. 1 cubic meter of wood will store 1 ton of carbon dioxide. If we built a 20-story building out of cement and concrete, the process would result in the manufacturing of that cement and 1,200 tons of carbon dioxide. If we did it in wood, in this solution, we'd sequester about 3,100 tons for a net difference of 4,300 tons. That's the equivalent of about 900 cars removed from the road in 1 year. We've been doing this new work because there are new wood products out there for us to use, and we call them mass timber panels. These are panels made with young trees, small growth trees, small pieces of wood glued together to make panels that are enormous, 8 feet wide, 64 feet long, and of various thicknesses. And what we've developed is something we call FFTT, which is a Creative Commons solution to building a very flexible system of building with these large panels where we tilt up 6 stories at a time if we want to. This animation shows you how the building goes together in a very simple way, but these buildings are available for architects and engineers now to build on for different cultures in the world, different architectural styles and characters, in order for us to build safely. And we've engineered these buildings actually to work in a Vancouver context where we're a high seismic zone, even at 30 stories tall. Let's start with fire, because I think fire is probably the first one that you're all thinking about right now. Yeah, fair enough. And the way I describe it is this. If I asked you to take a match and light it and hold up a log and try to get that log to go on fire, it doesn't happen, right? We all know that. But to build a fire, you kind of start with small pieces of wood and you work your way up, and eventually you can add the log to the fire. And when you do add the log to the fire, of course, it burns, but it burns slowly. Well, mass timber panels, these new products that we're using, are much like the log. It's hard to start them on fire, and when they do, they actually burn extraordinarily predictably. And we can use fire science in order to predict and make these buildings as safe as concrete and as safe as steel. The next big issue, deforestation. 18% of our contribution to greenhouse gas emissions worldwide is the result of deforestation. The last thing we want to do is cut down trees. Or the last thing we want to do is cut down the wrong trees. There are models for sustainable forestry that allow us to cut trees properly, and those are the only trees appropriate to use for these kinds of systems. Now, I actually think that these ideas will change the economics of deforestation. In countries with deforestation issue, we need to find a way to provide better value for the forest and actually encourage people to make money through very fast growth cycles, 10, 12, 15-year-old trees that make these products and allow us to build at this scale. We've calculated a 20-story building will grow enough wood in North America every 13 minutes. That's how much it takes. I believe that wood is the most technologically advanced material I can build with. It just happens to be that Mother Nature holds the patent, and we don't really feel comfortable with it. But that's the way it should be, nature's fingerprints in the built environment.